And I've got the quick review for you, absolute value equations. All right, so there's a couple different ways to teach these. I like to teach these so that not only can you do absolute value equations, you can properly solve absolute value inequalities. All right, so my methodology may differ from what you may have been taught. It's the same concept, just a little bit different. Okay, I teach my students to isolate the absolute value. All right, so you guys, let's isolate the absolute value, right? That's what we want to isolate. And we'll do it just like equations. Quantities added to that will move first, and then quantities multiplied. Let's add a positive 6 to both sides, all right? That is going to make my right-hand side an 18. And now let's divide both sides by 3, and that's going to make my left-hand side a 6. All right, so here's where we're at right now. The absolute value of 3n minus 2 equals 6. Okay. So I teach first time simply remove the absolute value and solve the little equation. Okay, add a 2 to both sides, you get 3n equals 8, and then divide both sides by 3, and you get n equals 8/3. There's one solution. Second solution, I teach to put a negative in front and a parentheses. Now the other way to teach this is put the negative on the other side. But I do this for the purpose of inequalities. It's the same concept. All right, when you distribute the negative, negative 3n plus 2 equals 6. Add a negative 2 to both sides, and we get negative 3n equals 4. Divide both sides by 3, and n equals negative 4/3. And there are two solutions to that absolute value equation. Okay. What else? Here's one I just want to refresh your memory. When you go to isolate the absolute value, you're going to divide both sides by negative 2, right? And you're going to end up with a negative 4 on the right-hand side. Remember, absolute value is distance. Can distance be negative? And the answer is no. So you have to know that there is no solution to this. So, or the null set, right? So once you isolate the absolute value, if the other side is a negative, it's going to be no solution. Again, something that you would know. All right, what else in this lesson was the pattern, right, which I think is pretty cool. The absolute value of x minus h equals d. And so you have to remember what h and d are. So let's do an example here, and I'll show you what h and d are. All right, h is the midpoint of the situation. Okay, so in reality here, in our example, h is actually a negative 1, right? Because isn't minus a minus 1 a positive 1? And see, the pattern has minus sign and then the h. Okay, so negative 1 is our midpoint. And the 2 is the distance from the midpoint to both solutions. So I go 2 to the right, and I get a solution of 1. I go 2 to the left, and I get a solution of negative 3. So x equals negative 3 is one solution, x equals 1 is the other. And by the way, you can put them back in and check. Negative 3 plus 1 is a negative 2. Absolute value of negative 2 is 2. 2 equals 2. Perfect. 1 plus 1 is 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2. 2 equals 2. Perfect. All right, so using the pattern to determine the solution is kind of neat if you understand what's going on. You could also take the solution and graph it from it. All right, that's the concept. That's the idea.